Okay, so what if I told you there's an ancient text, just 12 verses long, that claims to be a complete map of your mind? I mean, the whole thing. Today, we're going to unpack this incredibly short but profound guide to consciousness.
We are diving into the Mandukya Upanishad. And just to give you a sense of its weight, another ancient scripture says that this one text, all by itself, is sufficient for the deliverance of the aspirant. Think about that. No complex rituals, no elaborate mythologies, just a direct, unflinching look into your own mind. Just think about your day-to-day for a second. Right now, you're awake. Later tonight, you'll probably dream. And then you'll fall into that deep, dark, dreamless sleep. We all do it. But is that it? Is that the entire spectrum of what you are? Well, this tiny text gives a pretty radical answer. And it's not a religious sermon, not at all. It's much more like a lab manual, a scientific guide to the self, where your own consciousness is the laboratory. So, how does this ancient text even begin to map something as vast as the mind? Well, the master key, is a single syllable, and it's one I guarantee you've heard before. Om. Right, but this isn't just a sound for meditation. The Upanishad presents Om as a kind of metaphysical equation. It literally says this one syllable is everything: the past, the present, the future, and even what lies beyond time. The sound isn't a symbol for reality. The text claims the sound is reality. And here is where it gets absolutely brilliant. The text breaks the sound Om down into its three phonetic components: A, U, M. And it argues that each of these individual sounds corresponds directly to a specific state of consciousness that every single one of us experiences every single day. So let's follow this map. Let's explore these three familiar worlds that, believe it or not, exist inside your own mind. This table basically lays out the whole framework. First, you've got Vaisvanara. That's just the technical term for your normal waking life, and it's linked to the sound A. Here, your focus is outward, on the physical world. Then there's Taijasa, the dream state, linked to U. Your focus turns inward, creating these subtle mental worlds. And finally, Prajna, or deep sleep, which is linked to M, a unified state of potential, described as bliss. So let's zoom in on that waking state. This is our home base, right? It's our shared reality where we interact with solid physical things. The Upanishad links it to the sound A for a really cool reason. Just like A is the foundational sound in almost every language, the sound all other sounds come from, the waking state is the foundation of our daily experience. Then, of course, there's the dream state, Taijasa. Here, your external senses basically shut down, and the mind becomes the projector, the movie screen, and the audience, all at the same time. It just conjures up an entire reality from its own stored memories and impressions. It's a much more subtle, internal world, which is why it's linked to the sound U. And finally, we get to the state we usually just dismiss as a complete blank: deep, dreamless sleep, or prajna. But the text says this is absolutely not a void. It's a state of pure, undifferentiated unity. It calls it a mass of consciousness, where the separation between you and everything else just dissolves. It's the silent, fertile ground, the causal seed from which both waking and dreaming sprout. And so it's linked to M, the closing sound.
Okay, so A is for waking, U is for dreaming, and M is for deep sleep. But what about the silence after you finish chanting Om? This is where the text pulls back the curtain and reveals its most profound secret, a fourth state of consciousness.
The Upanishad describes this fourth state, which it calls Turiya, in a really clever way. It starts by telling you everything it isn't. It's not your dream world, it's not your waking world, it's not even that unified deep sleep state. It's something else entirely, something our minds can't really grab onto.
So after telling us what it's not, the text gives us these beautiful, powerful signposts pointing to what it is. Turiya is described as ultimate peace, ultimate goodness, and a state of absolute non-duality, or advaitam. It's not just another state you pass through. It's the unchanging reality itself, the very background upon which the other three states just appear and disappear.
Now, this is a really crucial point. Turiya is not just a fancier version of deep sleep. In deep sleep, your mind is still there, just in a dormant seed form, and you're basically unconscious. But in Turiya, the mind itself is transcended. You are pure, illuminated awareness. Deep sleep is a temporary rest stop. Turiya is the destination, totally beyond cause and effect.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is fascinating ancient philosophy, but is there any truth to it? Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because modern neuroscience is actually starting to validate this 2,000-year-old map of the mind.
Just look at this. It's incredible. The distinct states of consciousness that the Upanishads laid out thousands of years ago, they have remarkably clear and distinct brainwave signatures that we can measure today with an EEG machine. Waking life corresponds to fast beta waves. Dreaming, that's REM sleep. And deep sleep perfectly maps onto those slow, powerful delta waves. Even Turiya has a potential correlate in what's called gamma synchrony, a state seen in highly experienced meditators. The correlation is just stunning.
And remember how the Upanishad poetically called deep sleep a mass of consciousness and a state of bliss? Well, modern science confirms it's not a shutdown at all. It's actually a highly synchronized, very active state where our brain performs crucial restorative functions. That feeling of bliss is literally the biological peace that comes from the ego taking a backseat for a few hours. Okay, so the map is shockingly accurate. What does that mean for us? What's the big takeaway? Well, a philosopher named Gaudapada, who studied this text inside and out, drew a conclusion so radical it might just change how you see, well, everything.
Gaudapada introduced this idea called Ajadivada, which means the doctrine of non-origination. And his logic is as simple as it is profound. He says, look, when you wake up, you realize your dream wasn't real, right? It was just a projection. So he asks, from the higher perspective of that fourth state, Turiya, isn't it possible that our waking life is also just a projection? A longer, more consistent, more convincing dream, but a dream nonetheless.
To help us get this, he used this amazing analogy. Imagine you have a torch or a firebrand at night, just a single point of light. That single point is reality. It's consciousness. But when the mind starts to vibrate with thoughts and perceptions, it's like you start waving that firebrand in a circle, really fast. And suddenly, you don't see a single point anymore. You see a continuous, illusory circle of fire. And here is the punchline. The second you stop moving the firebrand, that circle of fire vanishes. Poof! It was never really there to begin with. In the exact same way, Gaudapada argues, when the mind becomes still, the world of separate objects that we perceive just vanishes. It was never truly created in the first place. Let's end on a more modern analogy from the sage Ramana Maharshi that makes this crystal clear. He said, Turiya is like a cinema screen. The movies, your waking life, your dream life, they come and go on the screen. The pictures change, but the screen itself is always there, untouched. It's not born when the movie begins, and it doesn't die when the movie ends. The whole point isn't to stop the movie, but to realize that you are the screen. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to chew on. If your entire waking life, everything you're seeing, hearing, and feeling right now, is just another film being projected onto the silent, unchanging screen of consciousness, then who or what are you really? Who is the watcher?